The World Cup champion will be crowned this week, and you can trade the tourney through the finals on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform. Right now, Spain is trading at 58% to beat Argentina, meaning 100 trade pays out $166 if they win. On Kalshi, you're trading against other people in a live market. No house, no odds makers. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code HOOPS to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI. Kalshi. Trade the beautiful game. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Hey now! Hi friends, welcome to Scott Box After 9. It is Thursday, the 16th of July, and Ontario's north is still burning. The wildfire smoke that has been in the air for the last 2 days, I think a lot of people are alarmed at this. You know, there's been wildfires before, but nothing like this. So either this fire is way further out of control and bigger, or something else is going on here. But either way, creepy feeling yesterday in the greater Toronto area. Today should be the last day with this thick coverage, and maybe we can actually see the sun again, because I think a lot of people are starting to miss that. On this episode, I'm going to keep it fairly brief. Again, and I'll tell you why. I said I wanted to be efficient with your time and mine. I don't think I need a long episode today to give you the stuff that I want you to hear. And on this one, you're going to hear from Ontario Premier Doug Ford, and you're going to hear from that son of a bitch, the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem. Before I get to them, though, I want to point out that today is going to be a big news day. As I record, the Prime Minister is just about to do an announcement on defense. No doubt he's going to get asked questions from the media, and no doubt one of those questions at least will be related to him hiring a Hillary Clinton senior Democratic operative that is American to be the chief operating officer of the Prime Minister's Office of Canada. An American Democratic operative is going to be the chief operating officer of the Prime Minister's office in Canada. I think that is wild. Apparently, Carney knows this woman. They used to work together at Goldman Sachs, and, you know, I can only imagine what the answer is going to be, and I'm kind of excited to see who asks the question first. So that's happening today. Later on tonight, President Trump is going to address the American people, and we're led to believe that this is about elections. They've been trying to pass the Save America Act for a long time in America, and there is fierce resistance from many on the left about putting in some common sense changes. Let me ask you, do you think it's common sense that someone would have to show identification to prove who they are and that they're entitled to vote? I mean, nobody's saying you can't vote, but they do want to say you can't vote if you're not eligible to vote. Don't you need ID to prove that? You know, that's just one of the simple things that they're arguing about in America. Tonight, President Trump is going to come out and he says he's going to bring the receipts to prove that not only was the 2020 election rigged, that it may have been heavily influenced by China. China interfering in an election. That is interesting. Hey, we haven't seen what the president has to say yet. We will see that tonight, and I will be talking about that tomorrow. Depending how good or bad today is with Carney and with Trump, I may or may not do the listener DMs episode tomorrow. I may do that on Monday. So just so you know, if you're sending in a question, might bump that episode just by one. Now let me get to some audio. Yesterday, Bank of Canada making an interest rate announcement. Here is that son of a bitch, the Governor of the Bank of Canada, Tiff Macklem.
Thank you, Paul, and good morning to everyone who's joining us. The Senior Deputy Governor, Carolyn Rogers, and I are very pleased to be with you this morning to discuss our monetary policy report and our monetary policy decision. The Governing Council has maintained the policy interest rate at 2.25%. We have three key messages. First, after stalling over the past year, economic growth looks to have resumed in Canada. While U.S. trade policy continues to be a headwind, consumers have been resilient and businesses are adapting. Second, inflation in Canada is poised to ease provided global oil prices decline from elevated levels. And third, uncertainty remains high. The conflict in the Middle East has re-escalated in recent days, and trade discussions with the United States remain ongoing.
That is basically the nicest possible way he could have summarized what's going on here in Canada. A fairly rosy picture. Interesting that the Bank of Canada has now downgraded their forecast for the Canadian economy this year to 0.7%. Is that the growth that he's talking about? Because that doesn't seem like much growth to me. He says there's a lot of uncertainty. And at the end of the day, basically what the bank did was leave rates alone because they say they don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of exterior influences, including negotiations with the Americans and the conflict in Iran, which has a direct impact on gas prices. So, where are we at now? Interest rates will stay the same. That, again, a fairly rosy picture. That was the nicest possible spin he could have put on the situation Canada is in right now. He said businesses are adapting. Okay, well, he didn't mention the latest numbers are out. And what is it? 40% of Canadian businesses in manufacturing either have or are considering relocating to the U.S. Now, we could end that if we just worked out a trade deal with the Americans so there's some stability and so that businesses can adapt. But right now, they can't adapt to anything. I don't know. I think it's a questionable omission that didn't come up with Governor Macklem there. But anyway, I want to play for you an exchange that Tiff had with a reporter. This is Judy from CTV News.
Hello. Is it possible that you are being overly optimistic? I'm hearing so many caveats in your comments as to the state of the economy. At the same time, your business survey that you put out just a few days ago indicated that business sentiment has deteriorated over the past 3 quarters, or has deteriorated after improving over the past 3 quarters. So I'd like to get a better sense of the reality. You show. I'm sorry, I'm having problems expressing myself because the data seems conflicting at many points. So what I'm trying to get at is, do you really think that the economy is going to improve this year and over the next few years, given the constraints that we are feeling and facing right now?
Well, we're calling it as we see it. So yes, our baseline forecast is that the economy is going to improve. There are risks around that, as I've talked about. But, to come back to why are we feeling more confident that the economy is expanding once again? Going back to some of the data I outlined at the outset, consumers, you got to give some credit to Canadian consumers. They've been resilient. They are consumer spending is still expanding. It's not a big number. There's very little population growth in the Canadian economy at the moment. So there's not new consumers entering the economy, but Canadian households are still spending. That is supporting growth.
I think that's all you need to hear from Governor Macklem. He didn't have a good answer for that question. So consumer spending is increasing, and that's what's driving the economy right now. That's it. Think of what consumer spending could be done if they would cut interest rates. Think about that for just a second. Doesn't sound like the Bank of Canada is the steady hand on the till that we've been looking for here, my friends. Hey, listen, inflation is their number one priority. It's their only job, really, is to keep inflation under control. And what is going on in Canada? Inflation goes up every single month. It may be 2%, 3%, 4%, but that's a constantly accumulating number. Inflation has done nothing but get out of control under these guys' watch, and yet they keep interest rates high. Doesn't sound like Governor Macklem knows what he's talking about. That doesn't surprise me. He doesn't seem like a smart man in any way. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I want to go to Queen's Park now. Center of Toronto. Premier Doug Ford was back at Queen's Park today, and Colin DeMello from Global News questioned the Premier when he was on his way to his office about this latest scandal affecting the Ontario PC Party. In case you haven't heard, I talked about this at fairly great length yesterday. Here's the Coles notes. MPPs that live in the area paying for hotel rooms and charging the taxpayers for them. You know, if you want to stay late at work, by all means, go ahead. You want to get a hotel? No problem. You don't get to bill that as an expense unless there's an extraordinary circumstance, like a snowstorm or something like that. Well, this just wasn't just once or twice. Some of these guys racked up bills of like $16,000 and $18,000 in hotels when they're not entitled to a hotel unless there is special circumstances. Now, I speculated Premier Doug Ford was not going to be happy about this. Him and I will probably disagree on what bona fide expenses are, but either way, he doesn't seem to want much taxpayer money wasted here, and he does not want another scandal, especially one that he didn't even create. Let's go to Colin DeMello talking to Doug Ford this morning.
Well, if we were sitting, that's one thing, but anything else, they're paying back. I have zero tolerance for that.
But you said
okay?
the party with the taxpayer
going,
dollar
Colin.
was over. Premier, you said the party with the taxpayer dollar was over, right? Isn't this the party with the taxpayer dollar?
Colin, the party with the taxpayers' dollars are over. Believe me, nothing compared to previous governments. But thank you.
But then how do you justify your cabinet minister spending $11,000 when he lives 6 kilometers away?
And that's the reason he's paying it back. Thank you.
Is he going to stay in your cabinet? What does that say to people if he stays in your cabinet?
Thanks, Colin. I appreciate it.
Yikes, I don't think he did appreciate it. It is a fair question, though, from Colin. He is the bureau chief at Queen's Park for Global News, and he is the head of the Queen's Park Media Guild or Gallery or whatever they call themselves. It's a fair question. Is he going to stay in cabinet? Does Doug Ford have any choice here? I think Doug has got to turf some of these people. The ones who were abusing taxpayer money, staying in hotels when they didn't have a bona fide reason to do it. I think you've got to send a message here, but I'm not sure that Doug is going to. He's also a fairly loyal guy. So I don't know if he's going to turf these MPPs as cabinet ministers for what they did. He says they're going to pay back the money for any hotels that were outside when the House was sitting. Well, the House didn't sit that much, so I have to assume the taxpayers are going to be repaid a decent amount here. However, they weren't going to do that unless they got caught. And I'm wondering, why aren't there consequences for someone who does this? Having to pay it back if you get caught isn't really a strong deterrent, especially when it's highly unlikely you'll get caught. But anyway, that is the story as it sits right now. And when there's an update on that, I will bring it to you here on the pod. Now, I want to bring in a couple of members of the Conservative Party of Canada. A couple of them that are talking about various things that I think are of interest to people. How about repeat violent offenders? That's been a popular topic for a very long time because we as Canadians, I thought, mainly agreed we had to lock up violent repeat offenders. Well, as it turns out, they aren't really getting locked up in some cases. Let's bring in from the Conservative Party. I don't think he's in the new shadow cabinet, but he used to be a real strong voice for justice. He's a former Crown prosecutor, and actually, I can announce this now. He's going to be on the pod next week. He is the Member of Parliament for Brantford Six Nations. Here's Larry Brock speaking yesterday.
Violent repeat offenders. If I were to ask the police chief here, if he could identify the top 10 violent repeat offenders, he wouldn't even have to think about it. He'd be able to identify their name, where they're living, the nature of their criminal record. Every community has a small list of violent repeat criminals who are largely responsible for committing over 80% of all criminal crimes in this country every year. Our legislation, Jail Not Bail bill, was designed to identify who those repeat violent criminals are and to hold them responsible and to keep them in custody should they commit the same offense over and over again. Because statistics will show when those violent repeat criminals are detained in custody, you know what happens? The crime rate drops.
I mean, that makes perfect sense. The crime rate drops because they're in jail. They're not out on the street terrorizing our communities. I'm really looking forward to talking to Larry next week here on the pod. I don't know exactly which day yet, but next week on After 9 is shaping up to be crazy. You're going to hear an interview with Larry Brock, and I've got a silent date update, all happening next week.
The World Cup champion will be crowned this week, and you can trade the tourney through the finals on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform. Right now, Spain is trading at 58% to beat Argentina, meaning 100 trade pays out $166 if they win. On Kalshi, you're trading against other people in a live market. No house, no odds makers. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code HOOPS to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI. Kalshi. Trade the beautiful game. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.
Let me bring in another conservative voice now. Andrew Scheer is a former Conservative Party of Canada leader. Here is him speaking at the same news conference Larry was at.
Question was, are we worried about overpopulation of prisons if you impose all these tougher sentences? We saw with the previous Conservative government that when we increased penalties, it had an effect on crime rates. Crime rates went down when criminals knew they were going to spend serious time in prison. And so that had an effect on the prison population in a good way because criminals stopped committing crime. And that's what today's announcement is all about. You know, when dangerous, we have had two things in this country for generations. We have had the presumption of innocence, but also courts that take into account when you've got dangerous, violent, repeat offenders, people who have long rap sheets of serious convictions, that public safety has to be taken into account. And we've had that ability for judges to keep those offenders behind bars awaiting trial taken away by liberal laws that brought in that principle of restraint and forced judges to consider the rights of criminals ahead of the rights of honest Canadians. And Mark Carney has chosen to keep that in place. So the biggest takeaway from today's message is that while the rhetoric has changed, while the government is running ads, claiming, using your tax dollars to run ads, telling you that they've solved the problem, they have kept on the books the very liberal laws that caused the problem in the first place.
You can't disagree with that. Isn't it common sense? If you are a violent, repeat offender, you've got to wait in custody until your day in court. You don't get to go on house arrest. You don't get to go out on conditions and just wander through the community to repeatedly do the same things. You got to go to jail. We're not talking about a first-time offender. We're not talking about somebody with an otherwise clean record. We're talking about violent, repeat offenders. What we had was working. Why did the Liberals change it? Why did they double down on that by keeping that very provision in place that allows judges to keep releasing these people? It's bananas, friends. Just crazy. I'm going to move on to the next one now. I'm going to do a little bit of President Trump. You're probably going to hear him tomorrow based on what gets said tonight when he addresses the nation at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Yesterday, he was meeting with the media in Pennsylvania, and he proposed something that maybe we should consider here in Canada. I'm sure everybody is starting to become aware that we've got an issue with foreign truck drivers that aren't properly trained driving these 18-wheelers, which at 100 kilometers an hour is basically a missile. And there's carnage happening on our highways. Not that there wasn't always carnage happening on the highways, but it's certainly happening more frequently and in more situations that should be preventable. Well, President Trump knows that that's happening in America too. So yesterday he announced his solution for that problem. Listen to this. It's about 45 seconds long.
The administration will soon take historic action to get illegal alien truck drivers who are just killing a lot of people. They can't read signs. Many of them are on drugs or alcohol, and they shouldn't be driving these things. And they came in totally illegally, and we don't want them, but they are driving all over American roadways, and we're going to replace them with proud American veterans who are going to take our veterans, who are going to make them. We're going to teach them a lot about driving trucks, and in many cases they know. We're going to say any American who's driven a heavy truck for our military will automatically be eligible for a commercial driver's license. So we're going to get them taken care of.
Okay, so he wants to get the bad drivers off the road, and to make sure there's no disruption to the supply chain, he wants to bring vets in to drive trucks. And if you've driven a military truck, and a lot of people that are, even if you've been through basic training, you've likely driven a truck. If you're qualified to drive that, then you automatically get a commercial driver's license. And if you're a vet and you just want to step up and say, yeah, I'd like to get my truck driver's license, they'll put you through a fairly accelerated process. It seems to me there's no losers here. I don't know who loses in this situation. We get safer streets and we get more reliable employment for our vets. Okay, great. But let's get back to the other problem. How are so many people getting their driver's license when they're not qualified drivers? Especially when they're driving an 18-wheeler or a dump truck or something like that. Seems wrong to me. We got to do something about that.
And we need a complete investigation that's independent. Now on Iran and the NDAA. When all the Trump administration...
Did you hear that? That was a hot mic moment yesterday in the U.S. Senate. U.S. Senate leader, Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, speaking on the floor. It sounds like he lets out a fart during his speech, and the mic picked it up. He even kind of giggled a little bit after he did it. I don't think he thought it was going to be that loud. I'm going to play it again. I'm going to try and enhance the audio. I'll just turn up the volume a little bit on the fart part so you can hear it. You be the judge. Maybe it was one of the other senators further back. It doesn't look like there was anyone around him when this happened. But nonetheless, maybe it was an ambient sound in the room. Here's Chuck Schumer.
Now on Iran and the NDAA. When all the Trump administration...
That was 1,000% a fart. We all... It happens to the best of us. When you got to let one out, you got to let one out. I just didn't think you'd do it on the Senate floor with a hot mic in front of you. But anyway, there we go. Friends, I am getting ready for tomorrow's episode. That's going to be a lot of fun. Before I wrap up this one, though, a couple of quick headlines. I did this the other day to try and fit more content into the pod. Things that I think you should know. The Canadian Taxpayers Federation has released the details on Prime Minister Carney's latest junket overseas. It's become a topic of conversation how much money this guy spends on airplane food when he's traveling. A 1-week trip, $160,000. $160,000 on airplane food. Chilean sea bass and death by chocolate for dessert, and the apps were probably great. But holy cow, this is the guy who told us to be prepared to make some sacrifices. $160,000 on airplane food. That's crazy to me. The Toronto Sun with a new survey out this morning that says 70% of Canadians say crushing taxes are destroying our standard of living. They suggest a growing disconnect between government spending policy and the priorities of taxpayers. I'm glad it's that high. 70% of Canadians can see it. The government is wasting our money. They're charging us way too much in taxes, and we're not getting anything back in return. Nothing like we're expecting anyway. And because they're taking so much in taxes, it's hard for the middle class to get ahead. That's something that the Ottawa elite does not seem to understand. And I don't know when they're going to get it. You know, they're running all these ads to talk about all the great things they're doing. Those ads, another handout to the mainstream media. I don't, like, do they actually believe that? That the small tax cut that they gave us last year is making a difference? We need a lot more. We need tax relief in this country, and instead, they're going to have to raise taxes. My friends, have a great day. I'll catch you right back here in less than 24 hours. Kind of a moving target for tomorrow. It might be listener DMs, or I might be talking about the biggest political scandal of all time. We'll see what happens tonight when the president speaks and what happens later this morning when the prime minister speaks. Have yourself a great day. I'll leave you now with Pat James and the whole truth. Hey now.
Oh, yeah.
The World Cup champion will be crowned this week, and you can trade the tourney through the finals on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform. Right now, Spain is trading at 58% to beat Argentina, meaning 100 trade pays out $166 if they win. On Kalshi, you're trading against other people in a live market. No house, no odds makers. For a limited time, download the Kalshi app and use code HOOPS to get $10 when you trade $10. KALSHI. Kalshi. Trade the beautiful game. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see kalshi.com/regulatory.